What's up, everybody? Spare with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on the Space Engineers Programming 101 series. So when we left off in the last episode, we had managed to get a system working to where we could move up and down the system, or the menu. Let me see if I can get over here. So we have our up button, which takes us up through the menus. Still never quite figured out why the inversion is there, that mathematically, why it wouldn't work going the other way. Still don't really know what that's about, but whatever. So we got all this, which is cool. But now we need to actually make it do something. The other thing that we don't have is a back and forth, like we have a back button and a select button, which we can't do anything with yet. So that's kind of going to be the next system here that we're going to work with. Oh, and I wanted to change something in the menu of the game real quick. I wanted to change a game setting, so I will be back in a second. Alright, there we go. So I changed the hardware cursor, so now you guys can actually see the arrow, which should make things a little bit easier to identify what I'm pointing at, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I really wish there was a way to compress code. That would be kind of cool, but I don't believe that there is. So we have our update selection method, which for some reason I thought I finally set this up. Selected menu item, total main options. I thought I finally set this up to where it was going to use an options system. Oh, that's right. It's because we had it set up to call update displays is what actually writes the method first. That's right. Tell you what, let's see if we can, because that's going to become a problem later, that we've got this hard-coded into the system. I don't like that. So let's try this. So theoretically here, we're calling update displays, which calls right main menu. So then right main menu is called, which adds all this stuff in, and then sets the total main options. Now, menu selected menu item. So if menu defaults to 0, it should just be the first thing, so that shouldn't be a problem. I don't think. The only part... Oh, we're gonna have to fix this. That was part of the problem. Is we just did a simple... Well... No, that shouldn't be a problem. Because we're reinstantiating the list every time. Which we could probably optimize that too, but for now, this should work. Oh, I didn't set it up to use them though. Okay. So let's do... What is it? Total menu options? Total main options. And we're going to kind of have to set up a... sort of a state machine, I guess, in order to keep track of, like, what menu we're in and all that crap. Okay. So... Oh wait, the lights are... Okay, we've got an issue. We've got issues. That's a problem. Index was out of range. Must be non-negative and less than the size that... okay, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Equals total main. Alright, let's try this. Once this is done... right after we're done with this, let's do another display line. where we're gonna find out. Oh, let's do total main. It doesn't really matter. Options. Total main options dot toString, just in case it doesn't like that. And then we'll make this append. That should be fine. Okay, so I think I see the problem. We're starting things out at 0, so inventory summary is 0. Refinery status should then be 1, power status would be 2, but total main options is 3. Which makes sense, but it doesn't in the confines of these index. So what we're going to do is total main options minus 1. Because that will make it 0 to... Basically, the max would be 2, which in this instance is exactly what we want it to be, not 3. Alright, so now, will you behave? Yes! Awesome. Now, some of you might not understand exactly what that did, because it looks like it's behaving exactly the same. Well, what that does is say, all of a sudden, in this, we decide we want to add another option. We can just go menu options, add, I don't know, speed, just for example. Or, what's something we can actually, oh, oxygen. Oxygen status. Let's try that. Now, when we run this, there's oxygen status, which is at 4, but now we didn't have to change anything else, and if we go down... Whoa, 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 whoa. What is the problem here? Huh. Hold the phone. What is happening? Interesting problem. Okay. This update selection thing has been very strange. Let's take this out. Let's see what happens if we just make this a straight if statement. I don't see why that would change anything if item selected is greater than 0. I know this is in the wrong, or it feels like it's in the wrong spot, but that's mostly just because it was behaving weird. Selected menu item decrements. Else, if item is equal to 0, then selected menu item equals total main options minus 1. So instead of 4, it should be 3. Here's another option that we're going to do, is right here, we are going to add the index. And what that's going to do is show us the exact index number of each option. So we can see, like we said, it should be equal to 3, so I don't really understand why it seems to be moving in increments of 2 now. I don't really get that. Not to mention that down is now going back up, it looks like. Well, this is perplexing. So, theoretically, this should work. Tell you what, let's go ahead and change this back to the way it originally was and see if we get any different results. I wonder, maybe I need to put this in parentheses? I don't think I do. But who knows? Maybe these need to be in their own parenthesis bracket. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure what is causing problems here. This has always felt like it was backwards for some reason, though, and I don't really understand why. Okay, so now up and down are okay, hold on. They're working, but they're skipping around. Like, they're going by, like, increments of 2. Which is weird. That's so weird. Menu options not count. Like, all that's the same. Everything's working. It should be fine. If selected menu, blah, 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 is less than total menu options minus 1. So as long as it's less than 3, then it increments by 1. I wonder if it's not liking the increment theorem here. So let's try this. Equals selected menu item plus 1. Let's see if that changes anything. So down may behave differently, or it might behave exactly the same. So we got up still goes by 2. I'm wondering something. Let me try this. Let's up the timer block to 2 and say start. And we're also going to set this to start. The reason that I'm doing that is I want to see if it's looping too quickly. Okay, so that's the problem. That's the problem. It works, but it's updating too quickly, and it's skipping through. It's going like 2 updates at a time. So actually, let's try this. I wonder if starting it will make it... Okay, so the problem lies with the timer block. But it shouldn't be running it more than... Okay, I see the problem. I see the problem. Okay. So the problem, for those of you that haven't figured it out, what's going on is it's taking too long to run through update displays, update selection, that when it gets to update selection, it's checking if it's working and it runs through its process. But for some reason, it's not turning it off fast enough, and so it seems to be looping through it again a second time, and that's the part I can't quite figure out why it's doing that. Because it theoretically shouldn't be doing that. It should just be running through it once, it turns itself off, and that should be the end of it. So I don't entirely understand why it's not able to do that with the trigger now system. Not quite certain of that. So we've got all this. I don't quite get how it's running through both a loop twice before it turns itself off, because this line is right here. So if it's working, it should end up turning itself off. Intriguing. What if we set this... So if we set this to trigger now, and we tell it to start. Yeah. Very interesting. Alright, I'm going to work with this a minute and see if I can't figure it out, because I don't like the delay of the full second. That's a little irritating. So let me work with this a minute and see if I can figure it out. Holy crap. So, we did some stuff. So, it works now. Works really well. Right? And, to boot, we can get rid of these lights. Watch this. No more lights. No more lights needed. Why is this unique? Oh, look at that! The timer block's off. How is that possible? Oh, look! It's still going up and down. It's amazing! So, basically, what's going on here is I remembered reading in a comment while I was trying to look for different ways to get this to work. I remember reading in a comment about the programmable blocks now taking an argument, which is an argument that can be passed to your code when clicking the Run button. Right? Right. Good. Good. So, what I ended up doing, and I didn't even know this would work at the time, but when you go to set up actions, at first, I was like, well, there's no other options. It just says Run. But when you actually... Stop it! When you actually drag the button down, or the block to the button and select Run, then it gives you an argument to pass through, which is really interesting and very powerful. So for this example, we're going to do down, right? And this one would be up. Okay? So now, the interesting part here is we don't actually need those lights anymore. Because what we're doing, we can actually get rid of this entirely. This is going to be amazing. Because what we're doing is we pass the, the string, the argument, into the main function. So we have a input value of string that gets passed to main. Now main then carries it down to update selection. So update selection we have set up, I already modified it to accept a string input. And it would look something like this. So for example, we're going to put this one as down. Right? So essentially every time we hit the button, it's going to run everything. When it runs everything, it's going to do all the same things, but when it gets to selection, it's going to pass in the input that we gave it from the button. And then the button is going to tell it to go down, and because it's not running based off of a timer now, it's actually just these particular values, it should work splendidly. Now, ooh. Oh, right. Oh, right. We've got to clean this up. Ugh. Totally forgot about that. So let's do input equals, and we'll just grab that first quote there and copy that so we can paste it later. We'll do up for this one. We'll get rid of this. All that should be fine, theoretically. This is back. No. Is it back? No, select. Select. Okay. I think. Right. And then this one is going to be back. And it also means we can get rid of these. Technically speaking, we could trim this down to not have the brackets because it's only one line, but for now we're going to leave it. We also need to get rid of the lights here, which is essentially the entirety of what we were setting up, but that's fine. Though technically, I'm just going to leave that there, because all we have to do is change what it contains if we decide to add more things in later. Alright. So now, theoretically, if we hit down, it goes down. And if we go up, it goes down once. the other one did that too. Weird. Alright, so... Huh. It's an interesting little bug. So, like, if I just spam this, it goes up the whole time. Tell you what, let's add an interesting little note to this. Now, I don't know why my frame rate dipped. It kind of dipped ever since I made this a global variable. But I did that for a couple reasons. One, so we would stop wiping out the list every time. So I changed this to a setup main menu function to where main menu is added to the list, or all these options are added, and then the total menu options is equal to the count. Now what we could do here, we could fix this right now and do a -1 off of count, but actually, technically speaking, we could set this to... We don't even need this, technically. I could just use main menu, or menu options.count -1. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll leave that for now. And then in the string here, I changed this to it writes the main title text, and then inside the loop we check if I is equal to the selected menu item. If it is, then it just adds the brackets on the edge of the menu option, and if it's not, then it does this. So we're not actually editing the actual menu option itself. We're leaving that alone so that it's free to change back and forth. Overall, these are just minor optimizations that will just make the code run better overall. And one thing I'm thinking is, because set menu wasn't already there when we started this up, I'm thinking it's causing problems because it's still looking for code that isn't there, or it's still trying to update. I'm not entirely positive. So let me reset real quick and see if my frame rate improves. Okay. Don't see a significant improvement in my frame rate, which means it's probably still polling something it shouldn't, because I shouldn't be getting 16 frames. I shouldn't be having any frame rate problems, actually, because it's not really doing anything. Actually, that's weird. Why am I having frame rate problems? Because the timer block's off. It's not even trying to poll constantly. If I turn this off, it still doesn't go away. Very strange. Very, very strange. I'm wondering if that might be just on my end, that I'm just having issues, and it's not actually a problem with the script. So anyways, what I started to say I was going to do is in here, in our display options, we're going to duplicate this line. And, of course, we're going to clean some of this up, and we'll do... What's the value? Current selection. And then let's do a selected menu item. Because I'm curious to see what the... curious to see what the main current selection is. So we have 0. Now if I hit down, it goes to 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. Very nice. But what is causing it to go back up? So if I hit up once, it still goes to 3. Then it goes back to 2. And this will go down to 2. Or no, it should go up to 0 and then back down. Okay, weird. So what in this is causing that? Every time we run it, we're giving it a different value based on the button. So it has to be in the update strings. If input is equal to up... Ah, that's the other thing I should put in here? Let's copy you. Now, in this version of the code, it's not necessary to have displays before. That could be part of the problem. Now that we've got this set up to where the main menu code is populated outside of the update display code, we're going to move this back down, because actually it makes more sense to change your input then update the display. However, with that in mind, we're going to have to get rid of this, because that will no longer work the way I intended it to. Let's make sure that works. Okay, so now down works. Alright, so 2. Oh, that actually fixed it. Okay, so it was a display thing, not an actual variable thing. That's interesting. Alright, so we have a working menu system at this point. What? Alright, cool. So now what we need to do is get rid of some of this fluff text, because it's no longer needed. And we'll also get rid of this stuff. Again, because it's not necessary anymore. Yeah, that should work. Let's test it. Alright. Boom. Boom. Awesome. Alright. Come on. Sweet. Okay, so now we are left with a somewhat bit of a dilemma. The dilemma is, now we're going to move into sub-menus, and this part is a little bit weird as far as how this is actually going to work. There's one other thing I want to do before we get into that, and that's test the timer block to see how... Okay, what I'm going to actually do is change setup actions. We're going to drag this back down and hit run, because the timer block is going to need something to do. So what I'm going to say is default as the main argument, so that something is being passed through. Now, okay, cool, so it does override it. I wasn't sure. Now, the only problem with this theory... Ooh. The only problem with this theory is that now the timer block is no longer doing anything. Because now I've overwritten... Maybe? The action... No, because the actions are... Okay, here's an easy way to tell. We'll do some debugging here. Easy way to tell. Let's copy this line, because it's easy. We're just going to throw that in here. Let's put this as... Oh, I didn't pass it in. Okay, temporarily what I'm going to do is say that update displays takes the input as well. We're not going to actually do that, but just for testing purposes, I want to see what happens here. So I'm basically setting up that the method takes an input and then passing it through to the right main, and then I had to set this one to take the input as well, temporarily. Hopefully that'll run. Alright, cool. So now, let's set the timer trigger. It's not displaying. Well, that's problematic. Maybe toString will fix it? Possible? No? Maybe? Why are you no go? Trigger. Alright, so we've got... It's getting the input. It passes it to both of these. Neither of them changes anything. Huh. Public write text main display. It's set to append. Weird. Alright. Well, let's try this. Aha! Okay. Up. Down. Select. And where's that other button? Back. Alright, so that works. So why won't the timer block work? This intrigues me. So it should be passing a argument to it as well. Let's hit start. But it's not changing the input value listed on the screen. Huh. What happens if I do this? Okay, there's default. So that works. That is very odd. Very odd indeed. Alright, let's try... Start. We're gonna pass this back in again, because the buttons can do it, so I would think the timer block would be able to as well. Default. We'll set it to 2, just to give us some time to see what's going on here. It's not doing anything. Wait a minute, am I a dum-dum? I'm a very big dum-dum. Just, let's not talk about it. That's what happens when you get programming sometimes. Okay, what happened here? It is set up to display, which we've seen, so why is it not displaying? Timer block. Set up actions. I wonder if it only does it once. Maybe. Is that possible? Because it should definitely be updating. But it's definitely not now. This is so weird. Alright, so it's not passing an argument at all. Like, that's just not happening, apparently. So run, start, and it's running and it's starting. But this is not going anywhere. Okay, now there's something interesting. If I were to do this, it is in fact taking it away. Okay, okay, we're making progress here. I guess I could have just hit stop. So, now here comes the question. If I were to put this here as a trigger now, and told it to trigger, now it should be looping. So what happens if I do this? Oh, I see. Oh. It is, in fact, running. Now, isn't that interesting? So it is, in fact, running, but it is no longer displaying the text because, for whatever reason, the timer block seems unable to pass the input to the programmable block which is odd. So that means every time it's being passed, it's passing a blank value, which in turn erases the text on the screen, even though it's still running. That is very intriguing. Alright, so anyways... Well, this is at least much more refined now, and it's working way better. So let's move into selection values. Let's see. Theoretically, this was supposed to change the private text, but I could never get that to work. So let's try something else. Let's say... Well, actually, I think I might wrap this episode up on that note, because I don't want to get into writing a whole new submenu just yet. Like, we're almost out of... I mean, like, we're... I know I usually run for like an hour or something, but... I don't know, I didn't want to run that long on this episode, and we kind of hit a point where we're already at almost 40 minutes, and we've kind of done a lot of work cleaning up the code and refining it and getting it to run more accurately. So I think we're going to end on that note. In the meantime, I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all next time. Peace!